Well, Devils and hockey fans, do we have a treat for you today? Today we are joined by a former NHL goalie who played for both the Anaheim Ducks and the Calgary Flames. But you may remember him from the 2010, 2014, and I believe also 2018 Olympics when he played for Team Switzerland. And he posted an incredible .956 save percentage and an 8.1 goals against average for Switzerland in the 2018 Olympic Games. A three-time NLA champion, two-time NLA goaltender of the year, and three-time participant, as I mentioned before, in the Winter Olympic Games. He certainly has had quite the career, no question about that. He was even selected to the 2011 NHL All-Star Game. This goaltender finished his career in the NHL with a .914 save percentage across 404 regular season game appearances, posting a .197, .140, and .37 record. He just retired back in March of 2020 while playing for ECHBL Bienne back in his native Switzerland. He is now the chairman of Blue Board Sports SA Gin Kiteboarding. Folks, it is with great honor and very, very much excitement to welcome onto the Devil's State of Mind podcast here, Jonas Hiller. Jonas, thank you so much for doing this, for coming on the podcast today. How are you, my friend?
Sure. Thanks for having me. No, I'm good. It's been quite a change over the last couple of months. Well, I guess with the whole COVID thing, it's different anyway. But hockey seems kind of far away, and at the same time, I also took over presidency of the Swiss Players Association, so I'm still kind of close to hockey. And all I hear about, or most I hear about, is can we start to play? What's the deal with COVID? What's going on? But I guess it's part of it. But no, looking back, I mean, has been amazing ride for me, and always love to look back to.
Well, I could say this. Growing up, I had a chance to watch a lot of your career, both with the Ducks and the Calgary Flames. And what I always found fascinating is that you were one of the only goaltenders that had their glove on their right hand as opposed to their left. I think we see a lot. Most goaltenders in the NHL have their glove on their left hand. It was always like cool to watch you play. Also, with your whole, goalie setup, especially with the Calgary Flames, a lot of people have been telling me about that. And I remember those days. But I think the biggest memory I have of you personally is how you performed in the Sochi Olympic Games in 2014 with Team Switzerland. I remember watching a couple of the games that you played, and you were, for a while, the talk of the Olympics. A lot of people we're talking about your performance and how well you were playing, and you were consistently good in every single Olympic Games that you played in. And so, I've always been a big fan of yours, and obviously it's always sad when I hear players that I like decide to hang up the skates. And that kind of brings me to my first question. What kind of went into the decision-making to, announce your retirement back in March?
Well, actually, the way things go here in Switzerland with being able to sign with a new team or having to re-sign even before the season ends, so there is no trade deadline or no opening for unrestricted free agents or anything. So I mean, you almost had to decide like a year ago when the team in BL asked me, well, what's going to be after? Are you able to, or you want to re-sign or whatever? And I really felt I was at the point where I felt like, I feel like it was getting tougher and tougher to push my body every day to the limit, to feel like I'm able to play at the level that I expect myself to play. I was never the guy who said, well, if it's just 95% that I'm able to give, it's good enough for me. I'm always either I do something at 100% or I don't do it at all. And then I just felt like it was just with every year it was getting tougher and tougher to push my body to those 100% every day. And then I always said I'd rather finish my career a year too early and finish at the top of my game instead of like just playing as long as I can, and at the end somebody else has to tell me when to stop.
Well, first of all, it's definitely understandable, when when you know that it's time, you obviously make that decision. And what I found really incredible is that even when you went back to Switzerland, you were honestly one of the top goaltenders, in that league, and you were still very much talked about here in North America, even after you left the National Hockey League. For our viewers and our listeners here, I guess another question I want to ask is, can you describe to us a little bit about the play and the league itself and the Swiss National League?
I mean, it's definitely one of the top leagues in Europe, aside from maybe Russia or Sweden league, who might be a little higher skill, or I don't know. Even like Champions Hockey League games, they're always close. So I think we're definitely one of the top leagues in Switzerland, and even guys here in Switzerland, they ask me, well, is the NHL so much better? And I go, no, I don't think so. I mean, especially skills wise, I think for me the biggest difference was always the intensity. It means like, in the NHL you play 80 games, here in Switzerland it's 50 games, you travel a lot, you play uh, next round of playoffs. So I think the intensity on the ice, but also with the whole thing is the biggest difference. But otherwise, as far as skill goes, skating speed and all that stuff, and I think Swiss hockey is still developing. It also proves with all the guys playing in the NHL right now, so it proves there's still good development done in Switzerland. And I think all the players that come over, they normally really skilled, good skaters, good stick handlers, and can read the play well. So all things that you need in Switzerland. And I think the biggest adaptation is sickle play, which is not that high, I guess, in Switzerland. It also changed a little bit in North America. Even over those 10 years I was over there, it got more technical and more skilled over that period of time, and it's still going that direction, I think. But the other thing is the intensity, as I said. I mean, you have to be ready to play at your best every second night. You have to be consistent more or less over 80 games, and then you have to find an extra year for the playoffs. And I think it's a little different here in Switzerland, where you have national team breaks and stuff too, where you have chances to kind of refocus and kind of makes it a little easier.
I like that you talked about how there are a lot of players coming from, Switzerland and that league that are in the National Hockey League that are very skilled. I mean, obviously, for us Devils fans, we have, Nico Hischier, who is, at this point, we can safely say is the face of our franchise. And I actually had a chance to watch him play last week in I think it was a prospect scrimmage where, Nico was playing. Also, Devils prospect goaltender Gilgis Sen was also playing in that. So I thought, it's pretty cool. And I've seen some really talented players. One guy I watched last night in the Minnesota Wild Vancouver Canucks game was Kevin Fiala. I mean, this kid has an incredible amount of speed. His stick handling ability is tremendous. He got the first goal, which proved to be the game-winning goal for the Minnesota Wild last night. And I mean, you're really seeing that. And, you mentioning that kind of brings up my next question for you is that clearly the NHL is going to be back playing in the Olympics starting, I believe, in 2022. And Switzerland has a lot of very talented players, like I mentioned, Kevin Fiala, Nico Hischier, Roman Josi, guys like that. I guess the question that I would ask is this: what is your expectations? I guess I know it's kind of a little far away, but what are your expectations for your native team, Switzerland, going into those Olympics against the rest of the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things from like even 4 years ago when I left North America, coming back, I think the difference is like now the Swiss players, they're not just players, they leaders on their team. They're like Josi, where he's a captain, he's the MVP of the team. Like other guys like Niederreiter or Fiala or especially Nico, like being the face of a franchise. I think that's kind of the difference. I mean, you used to have a lot of players overseas, but everybody was kind of part of the team, but none of them was really a superstar or who carried the team. And I think it's little things that are really important. I think it will definitely help also the Swiss players to be a little more calm. Even the guys that haven't played in the NHL, you have guys that play against the best players in the world on a daily basis, and they not just play with them. They show that they one of the best of them, and I definitely will help the guys that haven't played over there to just be themselves and show what they're capable of. And then I thought that was one of the issues we had with the last Olympics in Pyeongchang, where yeah, we have big expectations because everybody thought, well, if the NHL's players ain't coming, then Switzerland has a good chance. But I think at the end it was a little those guys that we were missing that really carried the team. And yeah, I think the big leaders we missed, and that's one of the things I'm excited about. Even like the World Championships, the two times Switzerland went all the way to the finals. It was big part because those guys that came from North America that yeah, proven to be one of the best players in the world on a daily basis. And I think the Swiss players, they just kind of followed in, and then I hope we'll see something similar yeah, with the next Olympics, with the best players in the world playing and hopefully participating again. And sure, Switzerland will always be the underdog, but at the same time, yeah, it's a tournament, and it's about the one game that you have to win. And yeah, we have proven it in the last worlds that we start finding ways to win those games.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to several people over the last couple of days about, the future of Swiss hockey, and you can see a lot of the talent that's coming through to the National Hockey League. And then I say to myself, I'm really excited to see a team like Switzerland perform in the Olympics with the NHL players, because I really think that they can make a lot of noise. And, I think certainly from the way you played in the last three Olympics kind of, helped elevate a lot of other players' games and kind of showed that, hey, you know what, we can do this, even though we're not one of the bigger hockey countries like Russia and Sweden and, United States, Canada, we can still compete just as well as anybody. And I think you in particular really showed that in the 2014 Olympics in Sochi. You really kind of put, I think, single-handedly in a way, put them on the map, put Switzerland on the map, which, really caught my attention without a doubt. Now, let's talk a little bit about your time in the National Hockey League. When I was looking up things, one thing that I found was interesting was that your NHL debut was on September 30th, 2007 versus the LA Kings in London, United Kingdom. You were in the UK playing with the Anaheim Ducks against the Kings. Can you talk to us a little bit about, how that whole experience happened for your NHL debut?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely special for me because, yeah, I mean, even though it was at the UK, I mean, it's an hour and a half flight away from Switzerland, and I had some family there, so it was definitely cool. But yeah, for me, I mean, it kind of went so fast with yeah, signing a couple months earlier, and then just getting to training camps. Never been to a training camp before, and yeah, everything was new, and then yeah, it took me a little bit to get adjusted, but at the same time, I didn't have a whole lot of time because yeah, a couple of days later, you were already on a plane to to London, England, and you knew that yeah, you're gonna play back to back to the Kings, and there's a chance that you might play your first game. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was definitely a dream come true, and I still remember a lot of stuff from the game, and yeah, it's been, yeah, as I said, a dream, because yeah, for me, it's been a long way to get there. I was never the big talent. I was never drafted, and
Right.
suddenly being able to, yeah, prove to myself and prove everybody that I made it to the best league in the world was quite amazing. And yeah, being kind of close from home, and then being able to have family there was what made it even more special.
I thought that was a really cool story when I found out that your first game in the NHL wasn't even played in North America. It was played overseas, in London. And I thought that was a really, really interesting story. Now, obviously a lot, you've had a ton of success in the National Hockey League. Like I mentioned, you went to the 2011 All-Star game. Talk to us. I guess my question basically is simply this. What is your fondest memory from your National Hockey League career? Like, what is the memory that you have that sticks out to you the most?
That's a tough one, because there's so many memories, so many big wins, and then so many frustrating things that sometimes stick even more. But no, I guess the All-Star games, one of the highlights, just because you suddenly not one of the top 60 goaltenders in the world. You suddenly one of the top six, or I don't even know how many goals were there. And yeah, I mean, it was definitely really special for me, and I think every Olympic game I was able to participate. As this is, I think especially the one in Vancouver in 2010 was probably the most special one for me because it was my first, and also in Canada where it was all about like the hockey tournament, who's going to win it. It was
Right.
pretty much the main discussion about the whole Olympics. So no, those were definitely unbelievable things. One of the other things I always remember was the outdoor game we played
Right.
at Dodger Stadium with Anaheim, and just yeah, certain things like that. And yeah, I mean, looking back, I have so many great memories, and yeah, sure, also some tough losses, but yeah, normally I'll try to remember the good things.
Well, you know, hey, that's important. I think for a lot of players, and I think a lot of people in general, as you get older, you tend to just focus on more of the good times and not so much the bad. Now, I'm glad you brought up the outdoor game because in 2014, I think that was when, you know, hockey was really going to be, you know, the focus of sports because you had a bunch of outdoor games, you had the Olympic Games, and the NHL was doing this, you know, behind the scenes documentary where they were following all these teams, including you guys, you know, when you guys were playing not only in the outdoor game against the Kings, but also when you went over to Sochi. Talking about the Stadium Series game against the Kings, what was your experience like? Can you talk to us about that experience when you first heard about you guys playing outdoor game, when you heard you were going to be the starter in the game, and just once you started playing in the game, did it feel different than a regular, you know, NHL game, or was it once you started playing, it was just another game that you were playing in?
Yeah, I guess everybody got really excited. I mean, I think that always already the previous year they had some behind the scenes stuff for their outdoor game, or I think it was the Winter Classic that
Mhm.
year. And yeah, I think suddenly people that like weren't really into hockey start watching the show, and then kind of start getting into hockey because it wasn't just about what's on the ice, but also what's in the dressing room. How, yeah, you start getting to know the guys. And I think it was really cool to be also part of that story, not just being there only see what you do on the ice. So that was the one big thing. And then yeah, sure enough, I mean, you hear about it, you talk about it, and then yeah, for me, I figured I need some special gear, so you ordered that some weeks in advance, and then yeah, you have plenty of other games, and then suddenly it's there. And I think we were allowed to skate on the ice the day before. Both teams were, and it was kind of, yeah, weird because yeah, it was so big, and it wasn't, yeah, I think it was around noon, and it was pretty warm outside, and the ice was pretty bad. So I was a little worried, but then kind of, yeah, I mean, you make the best out of it. And then actually the next day I was positively surprised even about the ice quality, and yeah, for me everything worked out, and I had a great game. We had a great game. And I mean, yeah, for that, I guess, yeah, you kind of notice it's different just with yeah, I mean, even if you look to the other net, like it looks different because the people are so far away, and then you start
Right.
looking up and you see people like you couple, yeah, I don't know how far up. And it was weird for that, but at the same time you try to focus on the game. And yeah, definitely felt also different with the lighting and everything. And yeah, I mean, for me, it was a positive. My agent even texted me afterward that he'll see if he can find a team that only plays outdoor games. But yeah, never came to that. But no, it was definitely once in a lifetime experience. And yeah, I mean, even now, people sending me pictures about the pads I used to wear at that game from. I think they were hanging at the airport in Santa Ana for a bit to get people excited for the next outdoor game and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's just the one game, but there's definitely a way bigger story around it and behind it.
You know, I winter games, you know, outdoor games are always special. That same year, actually, I went to the Devils Rangers game at Yankee Stadium, which obviously weather-wise was a complete 180. You know, you guys dealt with nice warm weather and all that stuff. I went to a game that was, at times it felt like it was 30 degrees below zero. It was just absolutely cold, as you can think. I mean, it was a pure cold hockey game. But yeah, I mean, you played very well in that game for the Ducks, and you know there was a lot of excitement because there weren't that many opportunities at that point where teams were going to be able to play outdoor games in warm weather. I know that way back in the 90s they played a game out in Las Vegas between the Rangers and the LA Kings. But this was kind of like one of these unique things, and I know a lot of people worried about, well, what if it's too hot? Is the ice going to be a problem? Are we going to have issues? But it looked like that they did a really good job. You were pretty much right on your game. It looked like you were just absolutely comfortable right from the puck drop right from the beginning. So that's a very cool moment, and not a lot of goalies get an opportunity to play an outdoor game unless you're Henrik Lundqvist, who's played in like what is it 4, 5 at this point. I mean, he's played in way too many in my opinion. Or if you're in Chicago, I guess as well, when you play every other year. But that's a really cool moment. Now, this is more of something that was kind of a surprising thing, and it was certainly serious. Is that just after you played in the 2011 All-Star Game, it was reported that apparently you came down with vertigo-like symptoms. Can you talk to us a little bit about that experience? Because I know that must have been a very scary situation to be in just after you played in the All-Star Game.
Yeah, it was weird, and even looking back, I mean, yeah, at the time nobody really could tell me what happened and what it was, and kind of looking back, I still think it was kind of concussion related because I took quite a heavy shot off my helmet during the game, and yeah, I mean, instead of like just taking it easy, I was out partying with the guys, and then back on the flight next day, and then yeah, you play 2 days later, you play again, and then I don't even remember if I got hit in the head again, and but
Mhm.
I just noticed that I felt off in the game. I felt I was just feeling slow, and first I thought it was just a little being tired, and I think that was tough part for me when like even the next day felt similar, and I always felt like I wasn't able to keep up with the game anymore. And yeah, I mean, I've seen tons of doctors, and yeah, everybody had some kind of the ideas, and nobody really could exactly tell me what. I mean, we did all the concussion testing afterwards, and there wasn't really anything off. But yeah, I mean, looking back, I still think it's that's kind of what's the most logical thing for me. But yeah, I mean, and then I remember one doctor I saw that she goes like, yeah, it's one of the most common things people go to the doctor if they feel dizzy or they don't feel right. And but I think so she said like 80 or 70 or 80% of the time you never figure out why it was. And that was kind of the tough part for me because also kind of coming back, I was kind of used to if things don't go my way, I just push a little harder, and I'll find a way to make it happen. And the harder I tried, the worse it gotten. And so
Yeah.
for me, the tough part was actually to kind of take a step back and then kind of stop comparing yesterday to today, and then
Yeah.
start to compare like weeks or months with months by month. And it was so tough for me because yeah, normally I'm so driven by getting better and giving everything I have, and then it just wouldn't work. And for me, it was yeah, nobody could tell me how long it would take, will it ever get better. And I mean, sure, I start slowly seeing progress, but it was like, yeah, as I said, it was comparing weeks by weeks, and then it was just getting really slow, and it was really frustrating. So I think that was definitely one of the toughest time that I had looking back. But luckily, yeah, like within half a year, I kind of start feeling all right. I mean, the good thing was like in everyday life, it didn't bother me too much. I really noticed it on the ice, and I think the way they explained it to me is pretty much with your inner ear, the connection between your inner ear, your brain, and your eyes. That your inner ears, if you move your head, they already tell the eyes where to look. And
Mm.
for me, that was off. So every
Mhm.
time I was tracking a puck, my eyes started or first had to find the puck again before they knew where
Right.
it was. And I mean, yeah, it doesn't bother you in everyday life, but as a hockey goalie, where it's tenth of a second really counts, and you should know where the puck is. I mean, it was a nightmare, and luckily, slowly gotten better. I mean, and I gotten exercises to do and stuff like that. I mean, I had a lot of help. I think the frustrating part is like, yeah, everybody was pretty much telling, yeah, it's really individual. Nobody can really tell you how long it's going to take. And I think that was the frustrating part. And for me, it took like, yeah, I didn't play. I played one more game. I think that season, but even that, I felt so terrible. Even though I think even it was a like shutout in Edmonton, but I think I felt so bad on the ice. Like, well, no, I can't play like this. I
Right.
don't feel comfortable at all. And Yeah, so I didn't play any games that season, and luckily the following season, I mean, during the summer I started feeling better, and then I think it was more kind of like you had fewer and fewer bad days, and then luckily starting the 2012 season, I kind of started being back, or 2011-12 season started to kind of be back normal, and then luckily I was able to kind of find my game again.
Well, first of all, I'm glad you were able to get through that very scary and difficult time. I know from personal experience that I've had symptoms very similar to you. When I played, I was also a goalie for a little while when I was a little bit younger, and I had a similar situation. So I think that was why one of the things I could relate with you, that it is a scary situation to be in because there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of questions that you have that you can't really answer right away, and you have to go through a bunch of different things. But what I'm really happy about is not only were you able to, get through that, and be okay, but also to continue to play, which I thought was tremendous by you. Now you eventually went from Anaheim to Calgary, and you played for the Flames for a couple of years, where you were arguably, in my opinion, the most well-known goalie in the NHL just from your entire goalie setup. I actually have a picture from, I guess, a warm up or something where it blends in with the old Calgary Flames jersey, the throwback, and it was, red, white, yellow. And I thought it was very cool. And that's how I think a lot of hockey fans at times got to know who you are, who you were because of that whole, setup. Can you talk to us real quick about what was your decision making when it came to designs and working with Coho on your goalie pads, throughout your career?
Yeah. The whole core story is a long story, so I hope you got some time if you
Go
want to
ahead.
hear the
Go ahead.
whole story.
Go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, I started playing core already when I was playing in Davos, Switzerland, and I think just a year when I signed with Anaheim and kind of went over, it was kind of when, well, I think it was Reebok at that time who owned the Coho brand, that they said, well, we're not gonna produce that pad, the 580 pad anymore. And so I go like, well, I can't really play. I mean, I tried the new one and it was just felt too stiff for me. I wasn't comfortable. So I brought the old pads over and then started playing with my old pads, I think. And then they go like, yeah, well, we can make an exception for you. We'll build you another set, so you have another season to kind of get into new ones. And luckily at the same time, I think Goalie Monkey, the goalie store out in California, was actually negotiating a deal with Reebok to be able to run their own line of goalie gear under the Coho brand.
Okay.
And yeah, sure enough, we got in contact and said, yeah, they thought it was really cool, and then I don't know how they did it, but they were able to negotiate that Coho or Reebok will develop a new pad together with me, and that was the pad pretty much played till I finished my career. As it was on the same path for over 10 years, and for me it always worked. And yeah, sure, the design stuff that was always able to change, and I always like to play with that, because also I always like to have quite new gears. I change my gear quite often anyway, so I figured, well, if I change it anyway, I can also do some new designs or come up with a design just for certain games. I think I had I had a special set for the outdoor game. I had a special set. I think we had the Mighty Ducks game in Anaheim, and there were a few opportunities. And the other thing was always the guy Alec I used from Eric's. I used for the paint job for my mask back then. He always goes, yeah, I'll never do a mask twice, the same thing. That's too boring as an artist. So I
Right.
always had to kind of come up with new ideas, or we came up with new ideas. So yeah, we also came up with the Movember mask and stuff
Mm.
like that, which I mean, yeah, you think about it and think it's cool, and then you suddenly wear it, and the feedback you get, it's way bigger than you ever thought. And yeah, for me it was also, yeah, I mean, that was one of the parts where I like to be a goalie, to also express who you are and then be kind of creative, because I feel like otherwise as a goalie you always react to stuff, and then with your gear and with your mask you kind of can be a little creative and then be a little different than the other guys on the ice, and I definitely always try to take advantage of it, because I always enjoyed it, and I always felt like Christmas if I get a new set of gear, and it did till the end of my career, and I was always excited to get my new gear ready, do some minor adjustments that I always did myself. I wouldn't even let my equipment manager do it. It was just I was always particular about my equipment, and I mean, not everybody was always happy about it.
Right.
I'm sure the guys at Reebok wished I would just be like any other guy, and they could just force me into playing whatever they have in the lineup. But
Yeah.
that wasn't me, and I guess that's kind of how the whole story kind of came together.
Well, that's a great story, Jonas. And what I love about it the most is that you weren't afraid to express, like you mentioned, who you are. And I think that that's important as a goalie, because I think first of all, goalies are just a different type of athlete, different type of person. What you wear kind of defines who you are. And we've seen some great setups, great masks over the years. I think my favorite one from your entire career was the mask that you wore during the Sochi Olympics in 2014. You had this, it kind of looks like a fiery thing with a couple of different patches as well. And I thought, and you have the Swiss flag down at the bottom. It's a very cool mask. And even though it's maybe not as crazy as maybe some of the other ones you've had, I think in my opinion, this was the coolest one. And I am half Italian. So I did see this Italian flag on the top, which I thought was kind of cool. But that was definitely my favorite. I also like the one, the red and black one I actually have as my background, this mask that you wore. But hey, look, it's important to express who you are, to let people know what you're all about, and I think that was something you did a phenomenal job of throughout your entire playing career. So I give you a lot of credit for that. Now, obviously, you finished your time in the NHL a couple of years ago. No, I think it was about 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. 4 years ago. My next question is simply this: what is the most important lesson you learned through just your NHL career? Whether as a player, as a person, whatever. What lessons did you learn?
That's a tough one. I guess for me, I mean, the main part was, if you really believe in your dreams, you'll be able to make it. As I said, I was never the biggest talent, and I was never like drafted, and the NHL seemed so far away. And then, a couple of years later, you have played 9 years in the NHL. Were a starter for a big part of it, and I mean, for me, it was really that to kind of prove myself that if I really want something, and that I'm able to achieve, and also prove it to other people that sometimes doubt it, and I think it's for everybody, and then it will also help me after hockey to kind of know if I really want something, I'll find a way to make it happen, and I think that's part of it. And so, also, especially as a goalie, a lot of time you need a lot of patience, as far as not just on the ice, but to till you get your chance. I think especially as a goalie, you either play or you don't play. You can't just be a fourth line player and then become a third line player, and then you're second line, and then you're suddenly a first liner. I think as a goalie, you play or you don't play, and I always said, like, all I can do is get ready whenever I get the opportunity, and then you have to take advantage of it. That's up to you, but all you can do. And not even that, like, some guys, they never even get an opportunity, and I was definitely lucky enough, even in the Swiss league. There were coaches and that they believed in me and gave me an opportunity. It was similar in North America, and what I'm proud of myself is that whenever I got a chance to prove it, that I was able to do it, and that's, I think, why I had success for so many years. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 good years. I think one of the good things I'm also really proud of is the consistency. I barely had any really bad years. I think through my whole career, and I think that's something that is one of the toughest part, because you kind of always have to adapt, and then find your focus again, and then adjust your game a little bit to how it's played in front of you. And I think it's always something you can't just be focused on just or think you can play like you did 5 years ago, but at the same time you still need a base you can build on. And I think that whole package like worked out pretty well for me. And also thankful for a lot of goalie coaches who kind of helped me with the adjustment and still let me be who I am. And I think that was a big part, and something that definitely gonna take even for also for the future.
I think I can safely say for a lot of people, including myself, that you are definitely an underdog story. You know, you, like you mentioned, you went undrafted, then you basically had to start from ground zero to really prove yourself in the game of hockey, and especially in the National Hockey League. And you not only survived but thrived. I mean, like you mentioned, you were one of the most consistent goaltenders during your time. And I knew that a lot of hockey fans always felt confident, especially whether it was Ducks fans or Flames fans. They were super, pretty much they were fully confident that you were in net because you gave them the best chance to win night in and night out. And so, that's something that I took away from watching your career and understanding your story. And it's truly a great story. I guess my next question is kind of like a two-parter is, what player or players did you watch when you were a kid that, you grew up that you said I wanted to be like, and what was it like being a full right-handed, I guess you want to say right-handed goalie? Because like I mentioned before, there aren't that many in the National Hockey League now that have the glove on their right hand. So, what was that, what was it like being a right-handed goalie?
Well, I think I start with the right-handed goalie first, because the weird thing is like normally like whoever is left-handed normally catches with their right. So, but I'm in my part, I'm actually right-handed and catch with my right. So I would
Really?
be a terrible baseball player because I couldn't catch and throw at the same time.
Yeah.
But I don't even know why. And I just, for me, it felt more comfortable like this. And I guess the advantage was when I was a junior, I always got new gear because the teams normally didn't have any full right or right-handed gear in stock from previous years. So I was always gotten new gear, but at the same time it was tough because so you go to the shop and they always only had like left-handed catching gloves there, and you have to try a left-handed and think, yeah, that kind of feels good on my right hand, even though you weren't even able to try it. So that was kind of like the downs. And later on it just it was what it was. And luckily I didn't have to change equipment and catching gloves too often. But at the same time, for me, even watching myself on TV, for myself, it looks weird that I catch the wrong way. And I actually never liked watching myself on TV because it looked weird that somebody
Yeah.
catches that way. It didn't look natural, or I guess what you're used to. So, but no, I mean, then there's always the question: is it the pro or a con? And I mean, it's tough to say. And as far as players I looked up to, I mean, it always kind of was step by step. I mean, when I started, the first goalie I looked up to was Pauli Jaks, who was, I think, the first Swiss guy who actually played a couple of minutes in the NHL. So he was a right-handed goalie, so that was
There you
big
go.
for me. And then after that was David Abisher, who I looked up because he was he was the first Swiss goalie that really kind of went to North America at the young age and then proven as a junior goalie, and then kind of worked his way into the NHL that way. So that was kind of the next guy I looked up to. And then for a while it was Patrick Roy. And then I don't know. I mean, once you're at that level, you kind of it's not you don't look up to somebody. You have a lot of respect for a lot of guys, and you kind of see what they do in certain situation, and then you try. If it works for me, you try. If it doesn't work, and then I think that's also part of like being or becoming a better goalie to figure out what works. And who else you want to watch than the best guys in the world. And that's the cool part about the NHL. You play against those guys on on a daily basis. And I think that definitely helped me also to become a better goalie, to kind of just see the other guys, and always kind of fight against the other guys, or try to be the better goalie on the ice, and then push yourself to be even better, and then make the one extra save to kind of come out winning at the end.
You, I guess this next question, because I am a Devils fan and this is a Devils podcast. Were you ever a fan of, Martin Brodeur, because obviously you were playing at the same time he was still playing National Hockey League. I'm pretty sure you probably had an opportunity to play against him a couple of times in your career, but did you ever get a chance to talk to him or get to know him at all? Or, and obviously did you get a chance, I'm sure you got a chance to play against him a few times.
Yeah, I played against him a couple of times, and for me it was a huge honor. And then yeah, you can't be a goalie without like knowing his name. For me, he was probably never the guy I looked up to as far as technical stuff goes. Yeah, I was into the butterfly style of goaltending already back in Switzerland, and then he was definitely not the typical butterfly goalie. But I think you can't argue with a guy who has won so many things and then been a goalie over so many years and then always at the top level. So, for me, yeah, it was weird. Yeah, before you've seen this guy on TV, and then a few years later you suddenly play against him, and then it was a big honor. But there are also a lot of other guys you only knew from, I don't know, from the TV or from your
Right.
PlayStation, and you suddenly like sit in the same dressing room or play with them or against them. And I think that was quite surreal, especially at the beginning.
I had one Devils fan that wanted me to ask you this question because he's trying to figure out a debate. Do you think that Martin Brodeur is the greatest goalie to ever play the position?
It's tough to say. I think it was even people asking me who I think I was the best goalie. I think it's so much about like what team you played on and whatever. But I think he's definitely up there. The
Mhm.
only other guy was probably Patrick Roy, put up there, kind of like what they won, what they how many years they played at that level. I think those are probably the two guys that. But if I had to decide in between, it's so tough. I don't think I respect them both for whatever they did, and I don't even want to make one better than the other or the other way around. So I think it's yeah, there's always people always like to know, but I guess it's always what's the best goalie. I guess it's the
Right.
one who won the most, or is it the one who was able to have success with the worst team? So I think there are a lot of things into that, but I think those two guys definitely are kind of right now still in a kind of league of their own as
Yeah.
far as what they won and what they achieved.
Yeah, no, it's a very tough thing because, like you mentioned, Marty's certainly going to be out there. Patrick Waugh, Dominic Hasek as well. Guys like that, they were very good at what they did. One question that I guess I have for you is simply this: can you talk to us about, kind of now your post-career thing working with Blue Board Sports SA Gin Kiteboarding? You're the chairman, from what I saw. Can you talk to us a little bit about the company and what you guys are all about? Because I'm very fascinated by this.
Actually, all we do is building kite for kite surfing, and for me, yeah, I always said as one of my big hobbies is aside of from, hockey was also part of definitely my job, but I always liked the water, and I was sailing as a young kid with my parents, and I tried pretty much every sport on the water, and yeah, I can even say hockey's on the water. It's just the water's a little frozen, but yeah, so. No, kite surfing is one thing I kind of picked up. I think it was 2012 or 2013, and then
Yeah.
I fell in love with it right away. And for me, it was a lot of freedom on the water, and then kind of like being able to just really enjoy me the wind and then the force of nature, and don't having to think about too many other things. So it was almost relaxing for me. And it was also during that time that I picked up that there's a Swiss company, Chink Kites, that is in that business. And I always said I became a little more patriotic when I left Switzerland. You suddenly start to be more proud of where you come from, and then you suddenly don't see everything as negative if you start comparing to other countries and other things that happen in the world. And I thought that it would be really cool to be part of the whole story. And I thought it was really cool how companies from a country as small as Switzerland are able to yeah, be a force in the economy as far as worldwide goes, or at least like are able to exist in yeah, with having yeah, with having companies all over the world, and you still able to have small Swiss companies that can handle the competition and are able to exist. So I think for me it was something that I kind of slid into, and it's definitely something I'm excited to also have some more time to spend. Where yeah, as a chairman, I was mainly doing some strategic decision and discussion and meetings, and then now it's also a little more in the day-to-day business that I can look into, and then kind of try to yeah, figure out some new things. And I mean, for me it's excited. It always started as a hobby, and luckily it's still a hobby. I don't think I'll ever get rich doing selling kites, but for me it's something that I always enjoyed, and I always thought it would be really cool to yeah, even after hockey, which was pretty much my hobby becoming my job, that even
Mhm.
after hockey that I would have something that used to be my hobby, and I suddenly like am in the business
Right.
of building kites, even that probably never become a professional kite surfer, but at least I can yeah, own a company that produces kites. So I think that's how it came along, and yeah, I still enjoy every minute I get to spend on the water. And yeah, I think it's a big part of who I am, and also something I'm looking forward now that I hopefully even in not just in the off season I get to go on the water and
Right.
kite surf also. Yeah, maybe when it was back on the ice. I know the guys here in Switzerland, they already started again skating this week for the upcoming season. So I go like, yeah, I'm not too mad about that. That I can still go outside when it's nice and warm and go kite surfing and swimming and stuff. But yeah, I guess I always said I also want to enjoy things that I had to sacrifice over the last, I don't know, 20 years. I was a professional hockey player, and
Yeah.
definitely want to also take advantage of those things. Spend some more time with the family, and one other big thing we want to do as a family is travel, which is a little tough right now. But luckily, yeah, we're not really set to a schedule when it has to be. So maybe it's gonna be in a year from now, or whenever the whole COVID thing
Yeah.
yeah, it's not the main topic anymore, but we'll see where it takes us. And
Mhm.
yeah, no, I'm really open, and yeah, excited also for yeah, something new, and things that I wasn't able to do over during my hockey career.
I think what's always interesting for not just hockey players, but just athletes in general who eventually, leave the game and go on to their next endeavors, that you always find how unique those things are. And I think, you being a part of this kiteboarding thing is a very cool thing. I thought it was fascinating when I first read up about it. I was like, wow, I've never heard of this. This seems like a lot of fun. I know a lot of my friends would probably want to absolutely try that one day when they get the opportunity. But I'm glad that you found something that you really love that you get to do on a day-to-day basis. With hockey, you're only doing it for a couple months out of the year, but with this, you get to work basically every single day and get to do something that's really cool. Now, my last question to you, simply this, Jonas, is, and this might be a tough one for you, but we'll see your answer. Is obviously you weren't able to get that illustrious Stanley Cup in your NHL career. And you weren't able to get an Olympic gold medal, at least I don't think so, Olympic gold medal. If you had to choose, if you could go back to the beginning of your career and you get an opportunity to win either a Stanley Cup or an Olympic gold medal, which one would you choose?
Ooh. Um, I would probably take the Olympic gold medal if it's in Vancouver or somewhere in Canada, because that's probably about as high it can goes. But otherwise, I think the Stanley Cup's still something bigger. And yeah, you competed. It's not just one tournament. It's finally 82 games plus all the playoffs that you pretty much battle for the trophy. So I think that's will probably still rank a little higher in my books. But too bad I can yeah, I never made it to neither. But yeah, I got a couple championships in Switzerland, and
Right.
just looking back, I mean, you start realizing afterwards how much it took. Yeah, it wasn't just the one last game you won, it was all the whole year and the whole season. I think that's yeah, why I also think it's tougher to yeah, be able to win the Stanley Cup. And or for me, it would have more value to win the Stanley Cup than the Olympics, I guess.
And I don't really blame you. You know, it's probably the toughest trophy in sports to win, especially in North America. I think considering, and especially right now with what we're dealing with. The bubbles in the NHL, all playing in Canada. Actually, your former team, the Calgary Flames, are playing in their second game as of right now against the Winnipeg Jets, game 2 of their play-in series. Are you still are you a fan of the teams that you played for? Do you still watch the NHL from time to time, or is it, obviously because of time difference, is it a little bit more difficult to be able to watch those games? And have you watched any of the NHL playoffs as of right now?
No, I like watching the games live. It's tough anyway with the time difference, and then yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be a little away from hockey, but at the same time, I still catch myself checking the scores, at least watch the highlights, at least either of my former teams where I still know players, or from teams where some Swiss players play on. So I still watched a couple of highlights of the last 2 days or 3 days of the playoffs and stuff like that. So it's still exciting. And then yeah, once I have a game on, doesn't really matter what kind of hockey game. I normally never put it on just because I want to see it. But if I sap through my channels and get caught on one, I still end up watching it normally because it's still something special to it. But it's not that I set my alarm clock because I want to see a certain game next night. So I doubt it'll ever happen because I have seen so much hockey. But I mean, you still try to, or I mean, it's tough not to kind of be involved with all I have lived through with hockey, and all I was able to live through, and really thankful for that. So I guess it's will always be part of that. But it's not that I sacrifice my nights for it.
I got you. Well, Jonas, first of all, I will say this, that if you ever decide to make a trip, when we're obviously allowed to travel again, if you ever decide to make a trip to New Jersey to check out Nico with the New Jersey Devils, let me know. And I would love to show you around because it's a great place. And a lot of hockey fans here in North America still miss you. They wish you could have played a little bit longer in the National Hockey League. Some people wish that you still are playing now. I mean, they would have loved to continue to see you play, but thank you so much for taking some time. I know it's a little bit later where you are, but again, thank you very much for coming on. And we would love to have you on again to talk more, hockey and other things like that in the future. But thank you so much, Jonas. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks for having me. And always enjoy kind of looking back and talking to people about it. And I definitely hope that at some point I'll be able to watch some NHL games live and suddenly be the guy who's able to eat some fries in the stands and doesn't have to be on the bench or on the ice and the stopping puck. So I'm also looking forward to that part. But no, I mean, thanks for having me. And then I'll definitely let you know if I should ever be in the New York and Jersey area. I always enjoy being there, and then I had some good memories. So and I definitely hope to see Nico and some of the other Swiss guys playing live at some point or somewhere, and we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, again, Jonas, thank you so much. And, I wish you nothing but the best in your retirement. Send my wishes to your family. And again, thank you, so very much for doing this.
Sure. Thanks for having me.